I've got a few simple JavaScript statements here, and I'm going to turn this into a function. You can do this any way that makes sense to you. What I'll just do up here is I'll create the framework of the function and then copy this code into it. I'll use the name function, and I've got to give it a name. I'll just say my function, not very inventive, but it'll do. Opening and closing parentheses, and we'll get more into these later, and then the opening and closing curly braces. I'm then going to grab these statements, cut them from one place, and paste them inside the body of the function. And I'm going to indent them a few spaces. I don't have to do this. This would be regarded as insignificant white space, but it makes it easier to read and easier to see that these lines of code are nested inside of a function. Now, the statements inside this function will now not be executed when this code first runs. The JavaScript interpreter will look at this file of JavaScript and say, oh, you've got a function called myFunction. Good for you. But it will not run unless you say so. So once you've made a function, you have to call the function. In our case, what I need to do is run some code that is not inside a function right now that will run when the page first loads. And all I do to call this function is I'm going to say myFunction, name of the function, and again, the opening and closing parentheses, and then the semicolon to end that statement. I'm going to save that and flip over and run the container.html that's pointing to this. And what happens is the page loads, it loads the JavaScript. The first line of code that is executed is this line called myFunction, which then causes all the statements inside the myFunction to be executed line by line, which causes the alert box to pop up. Now, the great thing about it is what it allows us to do is, if we wanted, call this myFunction 3, 4, 5 times. Not that this is going to be very exciting, but if I save this and then just go back to the page and reload it, what we'll have is 5 alert boxes. You can call a function once, you can call it twice, you can call it 1,000 times. It's a great way of creating modular code. You can even have a function call itself. This is a process called recursion, which can allow you to do some very interesting things, although that's a subject for another time. You can have as many functions as you want inside your code. You can have one function call another function, call another function, call another function. In fact, that's the general way that you will start to break up your code. So they let you have a lot more control over this code and when it runs. Functions let you break apart your code into more manageable pieces, but we can take them a little further. We also want them to be able to pass information back to us, and we want to pass information into the functions when they run. So let's see that next.